what inspired you to start this Sankassa Foundation?
Yeah, I like my career journey very well. After a point beyond 2015, I've been with various national programs. Before which I was an urban planner, and I was doing my role as a technocrat with Housing and Urban Development Corporation. And then I was feeling constrained because I was never able to do things that I wanted to. I wanted to move from an implementer to a decision maker. That's when I did this public ad from Ituan Youth School. And in Singapore, that's actually considered as good, or it's just like the IAS, of that country. So when I
Yeah.
came back, fortunately, I got these opportunities with the national government to work closely with the housing ministry first to formulate the slum-free city planning and then disseminate it across the country in 50 cities. Then we did the Ru Urban Mission, which we worked closely, and that was a unique opportunity formulating that mission and implementing that program across the country and impressing the Prime Minister with this whole vision and policy, and also setting systems in place at the Government of India level and also in all the states, putting up these units in all the states. And it was an amazing and very, very all-consuming mission, actually. So where I put my whole heart and soul into it. And after that, I've been doing various other Government of India missions and programs with the World Bank and the Fed. And so, all along with all this experience that I've gathered, what I learned is there's a lot of work to do in terms of, like I said, bridging the gap between the national and the state governments. And there's a whole role to play in understanding what are the grassroots level issues, I think. So, that's where I found that there is a need for intervention and dialogue. Policy making, actually, one of the key elements of policy making is stakeholder consultation, stakeholder management. So through this foundation, I would like to actually do the stakeholder consultations in a more professional manner, and then probably then stitch all of these findings together and then evolve better, more informed policies. So that's
Yeah.
the aim of this foundation.
So, how have you worked out any methodology or strategy, like how any plan, action plan, and work plan in the short run or maybe in the long run, how you want to go about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've identified certain issues which I have domain strengths like urban, rural, and livelihoods. These are the three domain areas which I will work on. And would begin with initiating a series of dialogues with the key players in each of these sectors, which would be like government representatives like you, senior government functionaries, also going down to district and block level at the same line of command. And like with this discussions itself, we have gathered so many issues and so many points which I would like to collate and put it together as a white paper and take it up at the national level. So after a few days, I'm also talking to the Chief Labour Commissioner and the Director General Labour Bureau of Government of India. So all these issues that you have spoken about labour in Kerala, I would take it to him, also discuss with him and tell him that how Kerala has its own unique model, and one size fits all may not work across the country. So this is the kind of talks that I plan to have. And as a methodology, so these are like the focus group discussions is what I'm going to be focusing on. And there are two. I mean, I'll be working in the state of Kerala and also at the national level with the leading policymakers and decision makers.
Let me ask on the urban side, urban governance side, because that is a very Kerala, almost it is a enter Kerala is either urban or urban.
Hmm.
So from your field of area, Kerala can get a lot of experience because you have been working in HUDCO, you have worked in, you have studied in Singapore on the same subject, you have been an architect, you have worked in urban mission. So I think, particularly in the urban sector, there may be a lot of things that might have crop up in your mind. You to bring down some specific topics like where you can immediately think about to start a dialogue, bring the across hierarchy, maybe starting from the municipal councillor, local councillor, up to the maybe urban minister or urban secretary, and because urban is a the problems of urban India is absolutely different from rural India to a large extent, particularly in terms of infrastructure and infrastructure problems to infrastructure solutions. So, how anything is in your mind, maybe keeping Kochi in mind, Ernakulam in mind, or Trivandrum in mind? Can you just highlight this?
Yeah, absolutely. I had an opportunity to work for the Kochi Master Plan way back in 2005-6 under the mayorship of Sri Dinesh Mani. So there we actually did a very different kind of a master plan where it was more participatory, and we consulted all the councillors of every ward, and we used to have discussions almost every week with the councillors as well as with all other departments, with the railways, with the road departments, with the PWD. We used to have these stakeholder consultations and doing a very dynamic master plan. So today, the town planning, I'm not criticizing any particular department, but master plan is a very archaic process. Still now in India, we have inherited the colonial, theories of master planning, urban planning, and then doing these blueprints and making different colored maps, and then storing it in the town planning departments, and it's just not enforced. So I feel the biggest problem in urban development in our country is the enforcement of these master plans, but not enforcement in the rigid manner. But I feel master plans also have to be more dynamic, and it has to be more, mixed use planning. We should move towards mixed use planning. Like for example, just take the case of Panapli Nagar, where I'm currently, my parents are staying. So Panapli Avenue, it's a very good example of a mixed use, where you have residential below and you have commercial also, but done in a very well balanced manner. So that can be a role kind of a street, a street which can be a role model for the rest of the city. So, for example, if it's Kochi, how do we do a very well balanced development of Kochi? I would feel we have to go in a decentralized manner. We'll have to look at ward wise development, and look at ward wise plans, because every ward will have its own local issues, and then stitch it up together to make a master plan. And we'll have to have a paradigm shift in this whole master planning, theory that we have in India.
And one thing just came to my mind when you talk about urban issues. One is urban housing, and particularly just now I have got a project approved. In fact, I only wrote that scheme. We have named it Alloy.
Okay.
That is migrant workers friendly residence. Kerala is having a model of state making houses for workers to give on rent. That is called Apna Ghar. But
Right.
this is the scheme, not the state making the house. What I have proposed in the scheme is already approved, and government have allotted money also. So this scheme is basically, we are saying that wherever a migrant worker is staying, particularly in Kochi, where it is a Perumbavoor, Vipar in Kottayam, and Pattambi in Palakkad, large number of houses have been built to give to the migrant workers on rent. But they are not having any specifications for the workers. You can be engaged with us in through your foundation and through your expertise, and to collaborate with my officers, my department officers, who are also not in urban. Their labor, they bring the labor component, but that it is not labor component. It is a urban housing. It's an urban governance issue. How bring stakeholders to make it. We are not giving money to build house. We are bringing all those people who have made house to make it workers friendly. Or if already they have made a house, to do little bit of retrofitting and by engaging them. So I think you can play a lot of role in it. In
Sure.
Kochi, you have already started it in Perumbavoor.
Okay.
So you can, in fact, I can ask my officers to start you to meet you, and whatever they have done, they can till now whatever they have done, they can tell you, and you can provide them solutions, and also can bring stakeholders. That will be at micro level,
Sure.
maybe in a particular, but still lot of house owner is involved, worker is involved, local panchayat people are involved, local government officials from labor, revenue department are engaged. Also, one thing like you have got a lot of awards also. Recently, also you have got an excellence award, and as a woman, you have been working. Uh, it's not we should say you are as a professional you are working, but just let me ask you, as a successful woman. Uh, do you face some challenges or problems uh, as a whole, and also in terms of getting your works or activities done? Particularly, like since you are looking for a now a foundation, so maybe this will be relevant because you might have kept in mind all these things already before starting it. So if you could elaborate on it a little bit.
Yeah, so actually, when I began my journey, I mean, I think it's also about my upbringing, because parents never brought me up like to feel different as a woman. So always wanted focusing on my profession, and like you said, a professional. So I've always felt that I was a professional. Even while I was working in HUTCO, I never felt discriminated as a woman, So I think government frameworks give you that kind of protection, to women officers. And but when I moved out of HUTCO and when I was in ministries, I still felt protected as a woman officer, and people respect you across the spectrum. When you move out of all these frameworks completely and become an individual woman, then I realized that it is tough. So women in India still need frameworks to support them. They need authority to support them. But as an individual woman, to be respected, it's still a far cry, And there are a lot of things that people think about you when you go as an individual and approach officers, and so there's a certain protocol I think which women have to particularly follow in order to remain respected in this kind of public projects and developmental sphere. But thankfully, I mean, I've been blessed to have governmental framework supporting me in spite of me not ever writing the IAS and everything. But I've always played such leadership roles in the bureaucratic frameworks and also getting the best of both worlds, I think, the private and the public worlds. So, but what I've seen is, not many people would know this, but government, and you would also agree, Pranabji, that women are far more respected in the governmental systems today. Even in the private sector, I worked in corporates also for a brief while in between many other organizations. So I think there is a prejudice against women. Women are are stereotyped. So like this is the first of the series that I'm starting in looking at the labor issues. I'll also have to marry the contacts that I have and the subjects. So although labor is not particularly my subject, but as a public policy person, I should learn to sift between various domains and not have any particular subject in mind. But since I, was able to touch base with you, I also was able to talk to my senior, Mr. DPS Negi, who's now the Chief Labour Commissioner. So now, coincidentally, I'm able to marry the national and the state level issues in labour. So that way, so I'll have to balance the contacts that I have and the domain expertise that I have. So if I look at only domain expertise, and then it might take time. So I also realize that I have a limited, every time I think now, after touching 40, you always feel you have a limited span of time in this earth. So you have to do things, quickly, and you have to just keep doing things as and when the opportunities come your way, and then streamline it to fit into the overall framework. Like through this talk itself, now I've got so many cues from you. You said that there could be training needs for your own employees, your own workforce. Important takeaways was one is in the labor sector, as far as it was it was quite an eye opener in terms through the discussions. We concluded that Kerala has its unique model of economic development, and we should not have this prejudice that Kerala is not investment friendly. It's actually enterprise friendly rather than investment friendly, and it can be a good role model for a startup, for a state which has a lot of facilitating environments for startups and enterprises. Just that we need to document all of this and replicate this and replicate and scale it up across the state in an institutionalized manner, perhaps after documenting these isolated best practices and pockets of excellence that are there across the state in various individual initiatives as well as initiatives of proactive government functionaries like yourself. And also on the migrant labor issues, how you've handled during the COVID time, I think that can be a real case study to capture and replicate and put it up in, I think, different Harvard Business Reviews and various other case studies. We could compile it and spread the word across to other states. So that was the second thing. And about the labor laws, etc., and the labor reforms and the benefits that the government of India is giving. I think you mentioned that Kerala also has its own labor laws, and it's evolved out of a long period of time through looking at the unique situation that Kerala has and the unique context. So the central government should give enough freedom to the state of Kerala to function as it is functioning, while also supporting it and facilitating and empowering the state to be as creative as it is today. And in terms of the portals, you said we also have a very vibrant portal, but perhaps something can be done to integrate it with the national portals and how we can benefit more from national programs and national government initiatives. So that was the second. That was another point of discussion that we had as far as labour is concerned. And I think also about the Aadhaar registrations, and you said the central government would expedite this whole registration process, and they're also talking of a unique labour identification number. So I wonder whether that also needs to be percolated more to the state. So that was about labour, I think, and in a nutshell, what we discussed. And you also said that there is a need for sensitizing your officials in the labour department towards various other issues that can happen in other departments. And then about the water, it was very heartening to note that so many measures have been taken by the government of Kerala on after the subsequent floods that we all that the state had to undergo. That how you're talking about if you, a database, a dynamic database of the water resources and the dams and all of that that is in place, and with the help of World Bank and various other externally funded agencies, you're really working towards that. So the damage to the as a result of these natural floods can be mitigated to a large extent. We're much more well prepared for the next time around. So hopefully we don't have the next time. But and in terms of rivers, and you're doing a lot of work. You said in terms of the river, in terms of contingencies during the summers, and also about the pond restoration. You feel that there may be a need for a mission like Mission Kakatiya that is there in Telangana to conserve the ponds, and also the rainwater harvesting needs to be disseminated and implemented in a much more enforced in a much more strict manner. And also we have to facilitate the local governments and give them adequate funds to implement this. And also, it cannot be completely driven by the government. It has to be a citizen-driven initiative also. Rainwater harvesting can go a long way in solving our water woes. And you also said that there's a lot of work being done for the household level connections. You're tapping into various externally funded agencies also to move towards, and also the Jal Jeevan mission. You are tapping into it extensively to look at more than how many 6 lakhs is it?
This year 21 lakhs.
21 lakh household this year, and over the next 5 years.
This is another 27 lakhs in next till 24.
Till 24, another 27 lakhs. So that's a huge area. Yeah. So I think, and we also spoke of how our, it's such an intricate ecosystem that we have in terms of rivers, ponds, waterways, the coastline. So really we need to balance this whole ecosystem and work in tandem with the urban development department, because that's where all the crisis is emerging in terms of all the disasters because of the haphazard way of development. So there really needs to be done something about enforcement of the planning regulations and rules, and so we have to work really closely with the rural and the urban development.
A part of the initiative, which will have a very, 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 very bright future. Thank you so much.
I'm really grateful to you to catalyze this whole thing, because every initiative will have an inertia, a kind of starting problem. So that you've resolved that, you've cut the ice. Now I think the ball will set rolling. So thank you so much for your time.